are not found in the book of life, you just stop. Like, you just don't exist anymore. And
here.
Jesus Christ himself is called the morning star in Revelation. So, like,
and so is Venus in all the other ancient societies. Ugh.
So you mean like how like I will really play on my wonderful forbidden fruitiness?
Celebrate good times. Come on. Welcome back to another episode of Unpack-It, the inappropriate and unruly show where former culties read the books of their former cult. I'm Patty. I'm here with my sister Nancy, and together we make up the Apostate Sisters. And we are also here with our friend Joel, who runs the MisterDiffiCULT channel on YouTube and on TikTok. Yay! All three of us grew up in the Worldwide Church of God. And so for our first book, this is our fourth session going through Herbert W. Armstrong's The Missing Dimension in Sex.
Time to get serious.
Time to get serious. So
this
last time
getting serious.
Yeah, I know. We're getting there. So last time we ended on chapter 2. And so here we're going to start on chapter 3, How Shame Entered. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, dear. Just like that,
and
Joel.
It starts. Thank you for that explanation, Joel. We had no idea.
I feel as if we need visual representations of the relatively dry material that we read.
Dry.
How's that for?
That's a wonderful illustration. Do you have another?
I believe you have something that we could use. Oh, you're at your friend's place. So
I'm at my friend. I don't. So anyway,
I will take this moment to remind everyone that YouTube may have different sensibilities about the level of dryness we bring to
the
party.
I made sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start like tapering myself down a little bit.
Okay, so we are discussing shame today. We are on chapter 3 of Armstrong's book, The Missing Dimension in Sex. Here we go. How shame entered. Now we come in greater but necessary detail to the real source of this attitude of shame that flowed on the tide of the Babylonian mystery religion into the Roman world. As stated in chapter 1, it had reached Greece from Egypt, yet it stemmed from a much earlier source. Actually, from the forbidden fruit incident in the Garden of Eden.
Are you Mango, the forbidden fruit?
I am.
Mango, too sexy, too sexy.
No, too sexy.
I am Mango. I love how all three. I consider all three of us Mango now, but
yeah, I'll take that.
Collectively, we are the Mango.
Yes. Collectively, we are the Mango. Go ahead. We are the forbidden fruit.
There we find its real author. Already in chapter 2, this fact was covered in brief. But the incident in the Garden of Eden set the course of human history from that moment. It determined the direction followed by humanity from the beginning until now. It is necessary that we understand more thoroughly, even at cost of partial repetition. Partial?
Dude,
I mean,
you can't get more repetitive than he is.
Yeah. Or unless it means partial in terms of favoritism.
Again, even at the cost of partial repetition, just how the attitude of shame towards sex was injected into the human tradition. I am actually in agreement with Armstrong on this, that shame towards sex should not be something that is in our social circles.
I recently had a conversation, was it today? Talking about like being crude in all those things, and I'm just sitting here going like, we've been crude for we've been prudish for way too long, especially when the Bible itself is not prudish. And so
Nope.
like the one thing the Bible does do is they use euphemism a lot. The thing is, though, it's like it's still pretty clear about what it's saying. Yeah, like we're just too prudish, and I think it's a result of the pilgrims coming over here being super radical, and then like the prudishness,
Yep.
like because I actually had a French friend come over here. It was like, I can't believe like how warped everyone's perception is about like their bodies and stuff like that over here.
Yes. We
I'm
don't even
so
show our
happy to
titties
hear
in this
that.
country. Oh,
We
you
make
go to Europe, you don't
nursing
have this
mothers.
problem.
We make
Well,
nursing mothers
wait,
cover up
wait.
their boob like it's sexual. That makes me
Yes.
so angry. That is
I just love-
ridiculous.
I just love how I just said what I said, and you two just started like talking over each other. I think that was just amazing, like about how infuriating
Sorry.
a lot of this stuff can be. No, you're fine. I'm listening. I'm sitting back and listening. So
Because
I heard.
It's boobs. It is it's a hot topic in the United States. So like, why is this the thing that is covered up and shamed?
Well, okay, bulbous nipples. Okay, so there's a joke that I had seen. This was years ago, even, where it's like, here's your kit to make nipples appropriate for social media, and it was like, you see a female nipple, you cut it out, and you take this male nipple, and you go, bink. Okay, now it's fine, because that's how we treat it. That makes no fucking
That's
sense.
exactly it.
Free the
I
nipple.
remember the huge scandal, the Super Bowl. What was it? I don't know.
Janet
anybody's
Jackson.
name. I remember when it happened, and like one of my relatives called my home, and like there was like this whole kerfuffle over it because of like how scandalous it was. I remember.
Oh no!
It didn't even show a fucking nipple, did it?
It didn't. There's
have
like a
just
star.
like a little
There was
star
a
on the
star,
nip?
and that was the thing that, according to fundamentalist Christians, that's the reason why God is so angry with the U.S. and he's destroying everything. Not to mention like the whole like gay marriage and stuff like that. But like, yeah, you
No.
know, I mean, I am the gay agenda.
Yeah, we know.
Mhm.
Yeah. You
Why we like
represent it
you.
well. And I did want to add to that discussion about boobies. So there was this little experiment done where someone had placed two women on a bench in a mall. One woman was breastfeeding her baby. All right, just kind of out in the open, not really showing anything, just breastfeeding. And right next to her, they stuck another woman who had she was very revealing. She had her boobs out, and they recorded this to kind of see what people's reactions were. And the woman who was breastfeeding got all kinds of comments about, oh, that's disgusting. Why would you do that in public? And literally there's this woman right next to her that is showing just as much boob as the other one. And I was, it was heart-wrenching. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It just really goes into the whole the systematic misogyny that we face as a society, and it's worldwide.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yes.
Mythbusters did a segment having Carrie on the show test out boob size for equating to more tips, and it worked. It not only worked, but it was incredibly obvious, and it applied to women as well as men, that the bigger the boobs, the bigger the tip. So
what's really
tip
funny
there.
to me?
Wow.
You know what's really funny to me is like me as a gay man, boobs have never been anything to me.
Right.
And so when looking at when I see that reaction, like when I see stuff like on Mythbusters where they do those social experiments like that, and I'm sitting here completely out of the loop, it completely drives me. What's like I don't grasp it, because it's like when I see like a very handsome or sexy individual that I'm interested, it's like I also very much ensure that I maintain eye contact and that I respect them as a human being and stuff like that. I don't treat them any differently. Actually, I might even be shyer around them, but besides that, like I don't give them more money.
Isn't that interesting? And I would guess that the people in that situation aren't even aware themselves that I've just tipped that person a little bit more because their boobs spoke to me, you know?
They might be, because like,
You
honestly, like, yeah, because it's like, at least like my knowledge of like how like in the gay community, it's very much like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They'll make comments far and wide about like what they see, and it's funny, it's like almost like I'm categorizing them. But then that's what I hear all the time, and so it's like, no, I think it's at least with men, I have noticed that there is a large proclivity for that. So
Okay. I mean, that's
I
fair.
think proclivity
There is
the right
a bit
word.
of a biological connection there to the boobies.
I agree. Men, or at least males, are typically more sexually like gung ho.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
notice.
visually stimulated. Yeah. Cool. Did we talk about boobs enough?
Yeah. It's a hot topic.
Ooh, we should go to Hot Topic.
Oh, we should. That would be fun.
I still say we go to a nude beach like we were discussing.
Oh, I will push myself.
Yeah, here we go. All right, next section. God had told the first man, Adam, that he, as a man, was wholly physical. Ooh, we were just talking about that. Yeah. Here was the newly created man. Grasp the significance if you can.
Grasp what?
Suddenly, a full-grown adult man received consciousness.
And Herbert is talking about this. Like he's like idolizing the male figure right here. I think it's funny.
Maybe God's gay.
I have speculation.
Okay. He looked around. Everywhere he saw beauty. There were colorful flowers, stately trees, green lawns, entrancing shrubs.
Is he saying bush? There's a lot of bush.
Bushes. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Entrancing bushes.
The Garden of Eden had some entrancing bush. Shimmering pools, the audible laughter of a rippling stream. He was surrounded by breathtaking magnificence. I love how Armstrong has actually insulted people who like to read fiction, like to read novels. He calls it lazy, and yet I feel like in this book he's actually kind of storytelling a little bit. So, but
it's
anyway,
like he's writing a very light version of smut.
It's like 3 layers deep of innuendo smut going on.
Yeah, and actually, I actually wonder if he was writing that book in that picture I keep posting. Him in his private jet doing this.
I mean, we'll talk about his jerk off journal in our next episode. Then the man looked at himself. How did he look at himself? And there were no mirrors back then, so I'm just curious. He would have had to look in the river or something, right? Yeah, look in the water. Okay, just clarifying.
Or like look down.
This is what I'm saying.
Yes, look down. Then the man looked at himself. He must have wondered, what am I? Once, I remember, I fainted. Then, when consciousness again came suddenly, the question was gasped
suddenly,
involuntarily, where am I? But Adam must have wondered not only where, but what. And God told him, you are dust. After the man had sinned, God said, out of the ground wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return.
The caps here and the italics and everything, it's just so crazy in these 2 paragraphs.
Right, it is.
Not to mention too, it says came suddenly, and I think it's funny.
God did not say dust your body is. Genesis 2:7. This man, composed of physical matter from the ground, became a soul. Same verse. This scripture does not say God put an immortal soul into a material body. It says God breathed breath into his nostrils, into the man's lungs. I don't know why he put the emphasis on man so many times.
Man. God did not say dust your body is. He said the conscious man was dust composed of matter. The revelation of God is plain. God formed man of the dust of the ground. Genesis 2:7. This right. and then it continued where you were. Okay, go ahead.
Cool. Still boring. Okay. It says God breathed breath. He breathed breath into his nostrils, into the man's lungs. God
at least he didn't breathe fire.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. It's like, what else is gonna breathe?
So repetitive. All right. God
partially.
God breathed this breath, this air, into the man's nostrils, just as all men breathe air in and out of their nostrils. just as dumb animals do. Yeah. This man,
In
composed
and
of
out.
matter out of the ground, became a breathing, living soul. The soul then came out of the ground. The soul is composed of matter, not spirit. The word soul is translated from the Hebrew. Say the word, Joel.
Nefesh.
Nefesh. Okay, I think I would have gotten it right.
Nefesh.
Nefesh. It means life of animals.
Can I
So-
can I enter here? Like slide
Yes.
it in? Nefesh.
Oh my God.
The actual meaning is based on the word meaning the throat. And when you breathe, the breath of life goes in and out of your throat.
Mhm.
So the concept is your physical self is your soul. And so your physical self can die. And so the word nefesh is not always translated as soul. It's translated as body. It's translated as corpse. Sometimes it's translated as myself. When it's like oftentimes in the Psalms,
Okay.
like where it says the word I, like as in I am, it's actually the word soul, my soul. And
Interesting.
so my soul is often translated as I. And so, yeah, it just means my physical being.
Okay.
Interesting.
Awesome. Thank you for that explanation.
Very welcome.
And then he goes on to say, but what has this all to do with the origin of this teaching that sex is evil? And the next line I just have to point out is in all caps. It is everything to do with it. Okay.
Nancy, that's so good.
Don't
That
you
was
know,
awesome.
you dumb animals? It has everything to do with it. Okay. Okay.
I snorted. I'm sorry, Nancy. You can Herbert W. Armstrong at the screen anytime you want.
No, we don't want that.
Oh, okay.
Satan uttered the first recorded lie in the history of mankind. It actually says mankind, and I was going to say humankind. My bad.
I default to human.
Okay, I do too. He told Mother Eve she would not surely die, or in other words, that she was an immortal soul. But God says souls that sin shall die. And God said to Adam and Eve that if they took of the forbidden fruit, thou shalt surely die. All right.
Disagree with all of that.
I
Do tell,
certainly
okay?
disagree with the interpretation. Go ahead.
Okay. Then we go on to history's first recorded lie. Notice how Satan himself put in humans' minds the sense of shame and guilt towards sex. It
No, he
was
didn't.
Satan that did that, not the Catholic
Nope.
Church, like he reiterates later.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like the one thing about the WCG is that they do definitely believe in a Satan, like in terms of like the traditional, almost like the Devil Wears Prada type of like like the red with like the hook and everything like that, like you see on the Devil Wears Prada, like the shoe. It's like that depiction was very much what I received when I was in the WCG,
Right.
even though how much we said that Satan is not the way that Western audiences portray him, that we were so hell-bent on that, but yet the depiction I got was very similar. And so it's like, yeah, so that's one thing is like it's everything Satan's fault. Everything's Satan's fault. And I'm like, that's not necessarily what the Old Testament text says. So
yeah, okay. And here we go back to Genesis. In the creation chapter, Genesis 1, it is written that in creating man, God created the physical sex organs. You don't say. He could have put the balls on the inside. I'm not really sure why he didn't do that, but that's
I really don't know why.
Amongst men. Yeah, and I don't know why the spot where you insert the penis is so far away from a woman's G spot. Typically,
right. I mean,
problem.
why is the male G spot inside the anus as well? I mean, I'd like to know.
That's a very good question. Very good question. Yes, sometimes it's in a woman's butt as well.
Yeah, I think it depends on the lining or something, if I remember reading correctly. Because I do educate myself on the things of which I am not aware.
Well, thanks, everyone. I feel like I'm learning things.
From what I understand, there's 3 ways that women can reach orgasm, though. Usually, what you call the G spot can be either clitoral, vaginal, or anal for women. Yeah.
I've never heard. I the only thing I've heard about like the anal side would be it's like the lining that rubs against the interior of the. I don't know. I just saw depictions of it. So
okay.
It's actually my understanding that a woman has 13 spots that she can come from.
What is this? What is this? Quagmire, like where he says there's an extra hole behind the knee.
Oh my God.
It's Quagmire. Quagmire. Let's have sex.
That's what Armstrong reminds me of, though. He
reminds you of glory 50s.
Holes. Well, I have. Well, I'll shut up.
All right, now that we're okay,
I'm done.
So yeah, Armstrong's talking about physical sex organs. We could go on and on about some problems with that, but we'll save that for later. Male and female created he them. Yeah. And God
just goes full Yoda. He just goes full Yoda in some ways. It's fine.
And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. The physical organs of sex, then God pronounced very good. Not perfect, I guess, but very good.
That's true.
Okay.
The word perfect does not appear in Genesis 1.
Man. He couldn't have separated our private parts from our poop parts a little bit more.
We got entry and exit spaces up in the head here, and then we have entry and exit spaces elsewhere.
You know, your mouth is just the other end of your butthole.
You're not wrong, Pats. You're not wrong. Okay. Beautiful insight, y'all. All right.
It's like poetry.
It is Hebrew poetry.
All right. God gave the first man and his wife full instruction in regard to his intended purposes and uses of sex, as we shall cover in detail later. Okay. So God ended his instruction, his teaching of necessary basic spiritual and physical knowledge as recorded in Genesis 2:24. Therefore, shall a man leave his father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Then follows verse 25, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. I am not ashamed when I'm naked, so I don't know what he's talking about.
If you go on to Genesis 3, when talking about nakedness and cunning, I would recommend Bible Hub, where they have the interlinear and they have the translation directly below the word. And if you look at Genesis 3, look for the word naked, look for the word cunning. And then if you can, like, grab those two and show like how similar they are.
I feel like you've discussed that before, actually.
They're one letter off.
Okay.
They're one letter off, and the original was spelled exactly the same. Yep.
Cool.
Hebrew went through various spelling reforms, and over time it got separated by a letter, but it used to be exactly the same word.
Cunning as in like smart,
sly,
and sly, not like
and naked.
Cunnilingus.
Wow. But no, we have something very similar. We do have very similar concepts, right? So yeah, we have puns as well. And so if I bat the bat away, like if there's a bat that's coming over and I bat the bat away, like, so they have stuff like that in Hebrew all the time. So so when talking about cunning and naked, yeah, take a look at those words.
Fascinating.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. In all caps with an exclamation point. Notice carefully. God had been personally with Adam and Eve. How personally?
Threesome?
Huh? Total threesome right there. God showed them exactly how placement worked and how orgasms worked.
Now you got to understand. He had a TED Talk.
This is a lot of assumption. Okay, sorry. I'll be quiet.
I mean,
Well,
the whole Bible is.
moving on. God had been personally with Adam and Eve, and the three had been talking together. Adam and Eve were naked. Nothing in God's instruction regarding husband and wife relationship had caused them to experience any sense of shame in regard to sex. In the privacy of this one married couple, I think they're still the only two people on earth. Am I wrong? Yes.
The text is unclear.
Okay. Yep. But okay, in the privacy of this one married couple, bound in marriage by the holy God who was speaking with them, there was absolutely no sense of shame in regard to sex. Now continue right on. Next verse. See what now happened. Great. Can't wait. Remember, as originally inspired and written, the Bible was not divided into chapters and verses. We know this. These were added by uninspired men much later, okay, as a matter of convenience in biblical study.
In my work, I'm a transcriptionist, and we refer to page and line.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
So, yep.
Where was I? Shit.
I don't know.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the eternal God has made. And he had said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. I didn't realize that God spoke directly to Eve. I thought he only spoke to Adam here. And am I wrong?
I think it was both. It was both.
It was both. Okay.
In chapter 2 it was, yeah.
Okay. Immediately, Satan begins to discredit revelation. Again, he's just assuming that the serpent is Satan. As the fountain source of knowledge, that is God's teaching. He subtly and craftily implies, look, God knows better than that. God was misrepresenting. God had told Adam and Eve that the wages of sin is death. For eternity, eternal punishment. God told him they were mortal and could die. Satan uttered the first recorded lie of history. Ye shall not surely die. In other words, why God was deceiving you? He knew you are immortal souls.
I think Satan was the one telling the truth in that situation.
Yes,
a lot of people do think
fucking die.
Okay, I got hot takes.
Okay.
Well, I'll say this real quick. I just checked for you, Nancy, and no, he only spoke to the man. I honestly thought at the very end he spoke to both of them, but he didn't.
Okay.
He told him, "You may freely
That's
eat."
what I thought. He only told Adam, not Eve. So do we even know if Eve knew that the tree of knowledge of good and evil was not something to eat of?
That's missing the forest for the trees. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, like, that's missing the forest for the trees.
I don't know.
I shall, as a man, I shall enlighten you. So just sit back and let the man teach. So
enlighten us with your apologetics. Go for it.
I love Patty. It's like, oh, I have a present for you. So, do you notice that we don't really know what people looked like in biblical times? Because
we don't. There's no pictures.
No, there's no description. When you read a novel today, very often you'll have a description of what someone looked like to get some sort of mental image in your head. The Bible doesn't do that. And the only time it does it is when there's a specific feature that wants to be brought out. Like, for example, like David's son's hair. And because he got his hair caught up in a tree and he strangled. But so it's like you only hear about certain body situations, like when it's important, like Samson. Which I actually have a hot take. I wonder if Samson was more of like a twink than anything, because everyone was so surprised about where his strength came from. And so if someone's muscular, you might assume that they are strong. But anyway, so shut up, Nancy. And so,
I've always loved the word twink. I'm sorry.
Then you have here in the scripture, you were talking about the you were talking about the lie that Satan gave. So the Lord created man
or
and
the
woman.
serpent. We don't know if it was Satan.
Oh yeah, well this is the thing. If you're Christian and you look at the New Testament, Revelation does call Satan that serpent of old.
Excuse me, I have to be Christian to look at that passage.
Wow. No. No. But the Christian mindset is that the serpent is Satan. Is like, however, it is very true in the Old Testament. It does not explicitly state it.
Correct. We're just assuming. Okay.
We are assuming, and then the writer of Revelation did say that serpent of old. But anyway, then you have with Satan's lie. So God created Adam and Eve. The word that was used when he was talking with the council and saying, "Hey, let's make man in our own image and likeness." So the word for image is the word for image is also used to mean idol, like an object of worship. And so man and woman were created as God's idols, as his image. So that's why in the 10 Commandments it says, "Don't make a graven image," because you already are one. And so like that's the concept. You are the representation of God's creation is how the Old Testament like really tries to put it forth. Then you have the serpent that is talking to Eve and saying, "Hey, God said this, but that's not true." So what basically the serpent was doing was like confusing the message that God said to Adam and Eve, "Rule and subdue the earth. You rule this place, and be good about it. Do the right thing, but you rule." Which is in direct contrast to the Canaanite ones when you have like the god Enki who gets annoyed because humans are too loud. So it's really interesting to compare that. Now, in terms of like Satan like giving knowledge and wisdom to Adam and Eve. So the concept of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life. So God created Adam and Eve in his image. So they were already in that state where they could attain knowledge and direction and still be in God's like depiction of it. The concept of the knowledge of good and evil, it's the knowledge of good and evil. To know something in Hebrew means to actually have in essence, like this is like a really brute way of saying it, but it gets the point across. Adam knew his wife Eve. The concept of sexual intercourse is all loaded in the term knowledge. So when you have the knowledge of good and evil, the concept is you are acquainted with it. You have experience of what is good and of what is evil.
So it's a sex tree?
No. The concept of knowing is similar to so the biblical version of sex is the two bodies become one. Same idea with knowledge is that the two two different concepts become one. So it's like it's really interesting stuff. So their concept when they eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that meant that they were able to define for their own selves what is good and what is evil, and to actually engage with it. So if you notice, the Bible often says in their own eyes, in their own eyes. So it's like they did what was right in their own eyes. And so talking about the eyes are a central feature in Hebrew. So if you notice, Eve saw the fruit and that it was good and she desired it. And the same phrases are used for David when he sees Bathsheba and he desires her and he takes her. Same thing with Achan when he sees treasure and he desires it and he takes it. It's a theme. It's like it. So Genesis 1-11 is presenting the framework for the whole rest of the Bible. And so that's why I'm inserting all these comments when Armstrong is talking about this, because it's very important to know how Genesis 1-11 shapes your entire understanding of the Bible. So anyway, I'm done.
Or twists it, depending on how you use it.
Right, exactly. That's the whole thing too. You can absolutely twist it, and it has been twisted. For example, for people saying that women belong below, notice Genesis 1, man and woman is equal. And then what happens is there's a break because of the sin. But the original intention is equal. The word for helper, like you're going to get is a 50-50 pair. The meaning of helper in Hebrew means an equal. someone that is basically your sidekick. And so that's the it's really cool stuff.
Sidekick. We're the sidekick, Pats.
but the concept is you have equal status.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with the idea of equal status, but I don't think that idea is I don't think that the Bible is the reason I can believe that.
Oh, no, of course not. No. So that's the whole thing is like, unfortunately, fundamentalist Christians will say like, well, then what you're doing, Patty, is taking your own concept of the world and applying it and eating freely from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's what I have a major bone to pick with. I do desperately disagree with that concept of trapping people into a mindset. It's like, no. If I do this, it's going to take way too long. Not doing it. Like some other time.
That's fine. I just know that growing up, it was about the worst thing that I could do or that people could do. I was told then everyone will just do whatever's right in their own eyes. And that was like the big...
I actually spent an entire year hosting a Bible study where we dug into these things and we were nowhere near the end of the material. So anyway.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Was alcohol provided?
All right. Satan implants sense of shame. The Genesis account is exceedingly brief and condensed. It merely summarizes in fewest words these conversations and events. We learn much from later passages and from history. Filling in the omitted gaps and details, what Satan said becomes clear. As soon as Satan got his lying, deceptive talk, and the woman had obeyed him, eating the forbidden fruit, and her husband deliberately had eaten it with her, the next verses tell us this: and the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
Can I just say, there's a really funny meme out there that shows Adam and Eve together, and the title is "It wasn't an apple and he's eating her pussy."
I think it's often equated to, what is it? Is it equated to anchovies?
Excuse me?
I've heard it equated to eating anchovies.
Patty, you got some serious caps coming up here. Good luck.
I see it.
And they heard the voice of the eternal God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the eternal God amongst the trees of the garden. And where the eternal God called unto Adam and said to him, "Where art thou?" And he said, "I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself." Notice God's answer. "Who told thee that thou wast naked?"
Can I just point out that this is kind of an abusive tactic here? God is wandering around the garden. He knows what they've done, and he's pretending that he didn't. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go fuck some shit up."
You're right. That is super manipulative.
Just take a look at anything God does, and it's manipulative.
This coming from a Christian?
This is coming from a Christian.
Who put the sense of shame about sex in the minds of Adam and Eve? It was Satan who had been telling them things. God didn't. All the time, God had been talking to them, instructing them in true and right knowledge. They were naked, but nothing in all God taught them gave them any sense of shame towards sex. This idea that sex is evil came from Satan. It was an accusation against God, an attempt to make what God designed appear to be contaminated and degrading. It was inextricably tied up with the false immortal soul lie.
I don't think
that's just like blah.
I don't think anything that the serpent said had anything to do with sex. I think honestly, it was just putting in a doubt. Right. It's just about like doubting what God says. Like that's the whole thing. It's like the crux is not sex. And I think what's funny is like, no, they were ashamed because they transgressed. He said, "Don't do this." They did it. They were afraid. It's like
they're afraid of punishment. But at this point, how does humankind know what punishment is, what anger is? I suppose they have the knowledge of good and evil, so they would know what guilt looks like, what being yelled at by Sky Daddy looks like.
That's why it's not meant to be read as a literal account. Because it's like,
excuse me, how do we know that, Joel? How do we know that?
Very strange contradictions happen in Genesis 1-11 that very particularly, this is not a historical account. This has a theme.
But people take it as literal, Joel. They think Noah's Ark happened.
Look it up. Look it up. The thought that the Bible from Genesis 1-11 was concrete truth, like historical record and stuff like that, like if you don't believe you're considered a heretic, it's only about 200 years old.
This is why everything was done in Latin. Well, and at first people weren't literate, right? So I mean, it was kind of like the secret knowledge that the clergy had, and they just told them the things they needed to tell them to keep everybody in line. And the realities of what was in the text wasn't getting to be explored by anybody who was going to, have a say in that.
And then it became dogmatic.
But absolutely nothing in what you have just read justifies nudism or nudist colonies. Yes. That is not the teaching of God at all. Okay, Herbie. Rather, God himself clothed Adam and Eve. Let's now learn how, under what circumstances, and why. When God had talked with Adam and Eve immediately following their very creation, he was instructing them in a situation of husband and wife privacy. Okay, you're just making shit up. He is. As long as they were the only humans alone by themselves, so far as other humans are concerned, God gave them no instruction to cover their bodies. Mm-hmm. God is everywhere, present at all times, omnipresent. When a husband and wife today are alone in the privacy of their own bedroom, God is invisibly present. Okay, I'm gonna. All right, I know you want to say something. Just wait. Just wait. Okay, but when their children and other people, the public, all living, are introduced, then we appear that God himself clothed Adam and Eve. Notice it. It appears later in the same chapter. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. Her children, their family, the public. Unto Adam and also to his wife did the eternal God make coats of skins and clothed them.
Was this foreskins?
Oh, no.
Was it foreskins?
The eternal God clothed them. The Hebrew word God inspired Moses to write here for clothed is lavash. Lovash.
Yeah, well, you can say lavash. You can, but I say lovash, and there's a reason. But go ahead.
Lovash.
Okay. Lovash. Mm-hmm.
It does not mean to cover shamefulness, to hide nakedness, or any such meaning. The Hebrew word meaning to conceal nakedness is kosa. Yeah. Kosa. Mm-hmm. But the word Moses was inspired to write, lobash, means rather the donning of apparel, raiment. I don't actually know that word. R-A-I-M-E-N-T. Good job, Herbie. You pulled out a word I didn't know. It refers rather to outer garments than underclothing. It implies the idea of adorning or decorating or displaying rather than concealing or covering over or hiding. In the incident of Noah's drunkenness, he apparently had been violated by Canaan, son of Ham. That's a stretch, but okay. Shem and Japheth.
It's actually not. I used to think it was a stretch. It's absolutely true. Yep.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Shem and Japheth, also sons of Noah, backed up with a garment on their shoulders and covered the nakedness of their father. They were hiding, concealing the result of a sinful act. Here, the Hebrew word for covered is koso.
Koso. Yeah.
Koso. So notice God did not koso Adam and Eve. did not hide shamefulness, conceal nakedness, but rather he
Lovashed.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
v. Okay,
So it's lovash.
The difference between the two Hebrew words. Geez, I'm really getting a workout.
Lovash.
Lobosh, and koso is one of
Koso.
purpose and intent rather than the fact of being covered. Both do cover nudity, but the Hebrew koso carries the connotation of concealing or hiding something that might be shameful, while lovash.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
just
fine.
say it, right?
Just say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. David Pack says abib. David Pack says abib, okay?
I like to say it right if I can, though. Okay. Includes no such meaning and implied adding attractiveness rather than hiding shamefulness. In other words, although God's clothing did cover their bodies, it did not imply any sense of shame in what God designed.
The word for clothing, so remember the word for cunning can look like the word for nakedness. The word for clothing, spelled exactly the same even today, can also mean deceit.
Seriously.
I mean, if you're talking Spanx, I understand. So we just can't do anything right. We put clothes on, we're not great. We take clothes off, we're not great. This does not mean, under any circumstances, that God would approve public nudity.
That's bullshit.
Not at all. God clothed man. God intended man to keep clothed, says Herbert W. Armstrong.
Comment. Yep.
God intended that we never expose or exhibit the pubic region. I had to see if that was public or pubic. It's definitely pubic.
It is.
The pubic region of our bodies.
Prostrate. Which one?
Exactly.
I felt prostate before the Lord. Oops, wrong word.
Wait. Okay. God intended that we never expose or exhibit the pubic region of our bodies except in the privacy of marriage, but the reason is not because the pubic region which God designed and made is degrading or evil, but rather as a matter of proper modesty and decorum. It is a matter of propriety, of courtesy to others, that we take care of certain eliminative functions privately. Sure. This does not imply there is sin or evil in going to the toilet. It is a matter of
shit.
All important things that bodies need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like masturbate.
It is a matter of etiquette, consideration for others, rather than to cover up something wrong. In the same manner, God wills that we wear clothes. We do not expose the sex region of the body as a matter of decorum and propriety, and to avoid temptation that could lead to sinful, wrong use, but not because the sex organs which God designed are themselves evil.
If all of us walked around naked all the time, it's not like we would constantly be sexually attracted to everyone. We get attracted to it because it's not something that we see often. In Europe, places like Spain and in Paris where they have boobs out all the time, it's just kind of normal. Like to see a man, stroking a woman's titty in a restaurant. That's normal to them. And so It's not like, oh yeah. But here you don't see that type of shit. And so all of a sudden you see a boobie exposed. You go out to a place where there's a boob out. It's exciting because it's not something we're used to.
I totally agree with that.
Like, okay, Joel, you gave the example of, you showed us a picture of Egyptian.
Not that one. Okay.
I don't know why shame has to be a part of it. I've never felt shame in that area.
And if we don't have shame getting in the way, we can actually have like appropriate conversations and talk about safety, talk about the emotions that go with it, and talk about the important shit that like gets in our way. And if we are stuck behind that shame, we're just going to like swirl in our own crap about it and not be able to unpack.
I'm still coming out. God designed sex for use only between a husband and wife whom God has joined in holy wedlock. He designed sex for righteous uses, and one of them is to bind husband and wife together in a loving relationship unshared with any other, correct? The very privacy of this marriage relationship makes it sacred, makes husband and wife dear to each other in a special way never shared with another in adultery, correct? This entire loving, sacred, precious relationship is greatly impaired or destroyed when shared with any other.
Not
That is why
necessarily.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That is why fornication and adultery are so harmful to their participants and therefore capital sins. So let's talk about the fornication and adultery of the Bible real quick.
Okay.
If so you had the temple prostitutes who were put there for people who were going to go worship a certain god and had to perform a sexual rite. And and it's like that's more under the like those are sexual prostitutes, and it's like, why does the Bible have a problem with that? Because a lot of people were forced into situations like that. And so it's like, yeah, the Bible is basically saying don't force people to do things. Stop treating people as less than you, treat them as better than you, like actually respect them as human beings and not toys and utensils.
I can show you several contradictions to that within the Bible, but continue.
The second additional reason for avoiding indecent or lewd exposure is that undue exposure of the female body is automatically lust arousing to I hate this. Is automatically lust arousing to the carnal male mind.
Is it to your male mind, Joel? Do share.
Saibu? Telling people that women are the reason why men lose their way. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. Saying it's because of the female figure that men are so drawn away. It's horrible. So
we agree. We agree.
Yeah.
But burlesque and girly shows, striptease acts, and all such exhibitions are deliberately intended to attract male admissions for profit through lust. Nevertheless, no, I have to agree. There is a lot of lust-based society. Yeah, there is that. There is a lot of that I think is a problem. Is like when it's like luring and enticing, and what I'm saying is it's like it trapped. You can get too far, I think, like when it comes to stuff like that. As long as things are consensual, as long as you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
But if you're in the enticing in a manipulative way, or you're objectifying women, then
pimping.
We've crossed into something that's
exactly
not like honoring each individual in the situation. And that's where it crosses the line.
That honoring each individual as a human being, as a whole human being who is equally valuable before God, that is the Christian perspective. Anything that goes against that is not Christian, and that's my hot take. Yep. But and
I don't know that you get to claim what is Christian.
I am the gay agenda.
You get to claim your perspective, but I don't think you speak for all Christians, Joel.
Nevertheless, these passages in Genesis show positively that the origin of the concept that sex is evil and shameful originated with Stan and not from God. It's Satan. I just like calling him Stan. The pagan world accepted this lie. As a teaching or doctrine, it became universally accepted dogma. This fable was popularized by the Greek philosopher Plato, founder of the curricular system of education. The WCG's thing against Plato is it's like that like to the WCG, Plato was Satan. Plato wrote it in his book. I don't know how to pronounce that. The Phaedo?
The Phaedo?
Yeah.
No?
Shame tied to immortal soul lie. It was from this immortal soul doctrine that the concept of sex as evil in itself stemmed. Notice how it developed. This immortal soul doctrine teaches that man is dual, while it claims falsely that the immortal soul is the real man and the body is merely the prison in which he is. That's true. Thus, the real man is represented as being spiritual, pure, good, righteous, already having immortality. It represents the body, the flesh, as being essentially evil, filthy, nasty. Sex organs and sex functioning are physical of the body and therefore fleshy, sensual, and evil. That's the way Christianity has really taken it, though. Even though he's trying to say, anyway, thus Satan has implanted the concept. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I like the word fleshy.
But it's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, Nancy. You should appreciate it. Remember, Stan is a spirit person, the former archangel, the cherub Lucifer, with no physical body, no
What?
sex or
Is that how
power
you
of
say that?
reproducing himself. The cherub or cherub?
You
What?
don't say cherub, you call it cherub?
In Hebrew, it is a hard k sound.
Okay.
Carob is
So-
the fake chocolate stuff.
Therefore, he is envious of these attributes bestowed on man. He tries to discredit them and represent them as evil, yet also to glorify them as objects of lust. Satan is the real author of prudish dualism. He also goes to the opposite extreme today. He also is the real author of the so-called new morality, which is in fact gross immorality. In this extreme, Satan deceives people into accepting sex as an idol of lust. I do agree with his concept here, not in the way he phrases it, but in the concept. I do believe that there are certain that sex has been weaponized to the point of something that has been created for good has been used for evil all throughout the Bible, even all the way up through today. And that's what the Bible has a big problem when sex is used as a weapon. But
this is why Armstrong's books were effective, because he's saying things that we're all kind of like, oh yeah, actually I do think that's sort of a problem.
In both extremes, he deceives humanity into evils by which he seeks to destroy the human race. Stan, that horrible being Stan. This Stanic doctrine of dualism is the very antithesis of God's revelation of the true facts. It is a diabolical lie. God formed man of the dust of the ground, notably the dry ground, not clay. Man is flesh, matter, and God beheld everything that he had made, and behold, it was these caps very good. But I'm gonna purposefully say very good in a soft voice. It was very good. It is what man thinks and does that is sinful, but Satan blasphemes the holy God by saying that what God made was very filthy, nasty, evil, and sinful. This is the satanic dualism injected into the original Babylonic religion. It spread into the pagan religions and into Egypt. From there, it flowed into ancient Greece and then the Roman world. We have already discovered its injection into post-apostolic Christianity. And that is all that was written on chapter 3. But the next one is why sex?
So we made it through how shame entered, but then we'll get to next time, chapter 4, why sex, its true meaning. I mean, we'll finally find out. This is a big deal, y'all.
But we found out what the missing dimension was, right? It's revelation from God. He's going to explain sex in very detailed.
I'm trying to see. I think it's chapter 7 where you have all the diagrams. Did you guys see my video when I said when I put it up there and I put the missing dimension and sex on there and I said complete with pictures?
Yes, I did. I was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. I'm excited.
It is in there. You got diagrams and everything.
Oh, gosh.
Well, so I don't know. Did we learn anything from the rest of chapter 3 here? That was all of chapter 3, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
I did learn something, actually. Yes.
Okay.
And I did learn something was looking at the explanation of the fig leaf and the animal clothing. And it's funny because it's like now having dug deep into the Hebrew and coming back to the same literature that I basically grew up. It's not the same literature, but it's the same thinking. And coming across the same mentality and actually being able to see the whole as bright as day is very rewarding to me, at least, having come from it.
You like seeing the whole really brightly?
I really do. I like to see everything in the light like that. I like to really take it all in before I start plunging in.
I mean, that makes complete sense. You want to know what you're getting into with every hole, really.
I mean, I'm just waiting. We're getting to the point where it starts talking about the mucous membrane at the anterior opening of the vagina. So,
oh, what?
On page 160, we're getting there. We're slowly getting. There's
Patty,
a diagram.
You haven't read this book yet. Ooh, it gets good. It gets good.
You said page 160. I'm on page 30 or 29.
I know, we're on page 34, right? We got a lot more to go. But it takes him all the way until 160 to really start talking about the sexual organs.
I mean, you know what's pretty great about this is the foreplay, the buildup, the anticipation of this series. It's gonna be good.
Oh, I can't
mean,
wait
like,
to like.
woo!
How did is there anything that we wanted to like close out on, like any thoughts or reflections or anything like that?
I feel like he just repeated what he said in the last chapter, but what was new? Did you catch what was new about this chapter, Joel?
Oh, I thought you said what was nude. Because you said did in the next word.
No,
and
I
it sounded
said
like you
new,
said,
but I'll
what
take
was
new.
nude? Did you? Well, I wasn't nude. Adam and Eve were. Okay.
Not yet.
And then God taught me that clothing was good. It was good.
I was gonna say, I think one of the reasons that we end up like the WCG people kind of having this like outside looking in, sort of seeing it from all sides kind of thing, is because we never thought that we were part of the society in which we were living.
We've
We
always been
assumed-
outside of it. Yes.
Yes. And so we looked at it from the outside, maybe more objectively, because we weren't trying to fit into it. We thought that was going to go away. Right?
Right.
And so I think it does give us this like odd little way of looking at the world where we're not enmeshed. We're actually on the outside. All right. Thanks everybody for chapter 3. We'll be back next time with chapter 4 of The Missing Dimension in Sex.
Where'd it go?
Yay.
All right, guys. Love you. And I'll see you guys later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.